Welcome to the virtual open house for the Business 51 project in Stevens Point. Today we're going to introduce you to the project, discuss the purpose and need for potential improvements, and take a look at several alternatives that are being considered. After viewing this presentation, please take a look at the exhibits posted on the project website and complete the online survey to share your opinions with the project team. This project is a partnership between the City of Stevens Point and the consulting firm AECOM. The city's key representative for the project is Scott Badoon, the Director of Public Works. The consultant project manager is Amy Canfield. In addition to AECOM, there are several sub-consultants working on various parts of the project. Another significant part of the project team is you. We want to hear what you think of the ideas presented today. There are multiple ways to get involved. You can complete our online survey. There is a link on the project website. You can participate in one of the live Q&A sessions to be held on September 29th and October 1st. Or you can email a member of the project team. Email addresses are provided at the end of this presentation. Now let's talk about what the Business 51 project entails. The corridor we are studying for improvements is 3 miles long and stretches from the South City limits to North Point Drive. The roadway has 4 lanes, and for the majority of the corridor, there is no separation between opposing directions of traffic. Traffic volumes range from 9,000 vehicles per day to 13,700 vehicles per day. This project consists of a planning study to determine what roadway improvements are needed, followed by a design phase where preliminary plans will be completed. At the beginning of every project, we need to determine our why for the project. The purpose and need defines the why for a project. The purpose of the Business 51 project is to address the pavement, safety, and multimodal needs of the Business 51 corridor while ensuring efficient traffic flow. The next few slides are going to discuss each of these needs, pavement, safety, and multimodal, in more detail. If there is one thing you remember after today about why we need to make changes to the design of this roadway, it is because we need to improve safety. We can do better than the existing roadway. Crashes were bad when we first studied this roadway in 2012 and 2013. They are worse now. Business 51 north of Ellis Street has a higher crash rate than 95% of similar roads in Wisconsin. Crash rate is a function of both the number of vehicles using the roadway and the number of crashes that occur. The darker red an area is, the higher the crash rate in that area. We examined all the crashes on Business 51 in the 5-year period from 2015 to 2019 to make this figure showing corridor crash rates. In looking specifically at intersections, there are 5 intersections that have a crash rate higher than 1.0. This number is typically used as a quick screening tool to determine specific locations that need safety improvements. The good news is there were no fatalities in the 5-year time period we studied between 2015 and 2019. But intersection crash rates have also increased since the last time this corridor was studied. Another need for the Business 51 corridor has to do with its existing multimodal accommodations for pedestrians and bicyclists. This graphic shows the distribution of pedestrian crossings at select intersections along the corridor. When you think of this corridor and whether or not it is a friendly environment for people walking, think about the fact that the vast majority of the sidewalk is immediately adjacent to the roadway, or only separated by a few feet of concrete or grass. The area surrounding Business 51 is also home to the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point, several K-12 schools, the YMCA, and other community facilities that people frequently walk and bike to. Similar to Pedestrian Needs, many bicyclists try to cross Business 51 every day and/or travel north and south through the project corridor. Although state law no longer mandates bicycle accommodations on roadways that are reconstructed with state or federal funding, the City of Stevens Point has a complete streets policy that strives to build transportation corridors that accommodate all users, whether they drive a personal vehicle, walk, bike, or use transit. One of the key decisions we will need to make for this corridor is whether or not on-street bicycle accommodations should be included. Another major issue on this corridor is the condition of the existing pavement and the utilities underneath the pavement. In 2019, when the pavement was last evaluated, 70% of the corridor scored a 3 or less on a scale of 1 to 10. I assume this doesn't come as a surprise to anyone. It's obvious when driving this corridor that there is cracking, potholes, and frequent repairs occurring. We've moved past the point where pavement repair is economical. We need to completely replace the pavement. You may have noticed that we haven't talked about improving traffic operations as one of the project needs. On the first slide for this section, we stated a desire to simply maintain traffic flow. Overall traffic volumes have been decreasing on this corridor since 2005. Given COVID, this trend is likely to continue. Despite this decrease, it should be noted that for planning purposes, the project team is going to assume that traffic is growing at 0.5% per year when we analyze any improvement alternatives. This will ensure that we are being conservative in our traffic models. That wraps up the purpose and need part of this presentation. In summary, key needs for the project are pavement, safety, and pedestrian and bicycle improvements. The next part of the presentation will focus on potential improvement alternatives for the corridor. Potential alternatives were first studied in 2012 and 2013 as part of a previous study. All of the alternatives from that study have been reviewed and modified. Let's start with a high-level review of the alternatives we are considering. The no-build alternative means to do nothing beyond routine roadway maintenance. As time goes on, this alternative becomes less and less cost-effective and results in a patchwork roadway that still has safety problems and poor pedestrian and bicycle accommodations. This alternative is typically carried forward for impact comparison purposes only. A one-way pair alternative using Business 51 and Michigan Avenue was suggested by the public during the 2012-2013 study. This alternative was not carried forward because the 6-block separation between Business 51 and Michigan Avenue would result in significant cut-through traffic on local streets and issues for bicyclists and transit users. The 2-lane and 4-lane alternatives include either a 2-way left turn lane or a raised median, depending on location. Other typical section elements to be considered include terraces, sidewalks, and bike lanes. If any of these terms are unfamiliar to you, I encourage you to take a look at the roadway terminology exhibits posted on the website. One of the big questions we received from the public during the previous study in 2012 and 2013 was, will a road diet really work on Business 51? A road diet is a reduction in the number of travel lanes. The main benefits of a road diet for Business 51 are the potential to improve safety and multimodal accommodations while reducing the amount of right-of-way needed. Business 51 is a good candidate for a road diet. Its existing and future traffic volumes are well within acceptable ranges. It has a low posted speed. It is experiencing safety problems as a 4-lane roadway, and there is a desire to make the roadway more inviting to pedestrians and bicyclists. With proper signal timing and coordination, a road diet can be implemented on Business 51 without significant negative impacts to traffic flow. Now let's talk about the details of the alternatives proposed for Business 51. For the purposes of describing the existing roadway and potential improvement alternatives, we've divided the roadway into 3 segments: south, central, and north. Each segment has a unique typical section and surrounding land use. The south segment, defined as the area between the south city limits and Patch Street, is primarily a 4-lane, undivided roadway. It's surrounded by commercial land use and an abundance of access points. The existing roadway has narrow terraces, which provide little separation between the sidewalk and traffic for pedestrians, and very little room for snow storage. Traffic turning into adjacent driveways must stop in the inside through lane to make a left turn. The aesthetic character of the roadway is low. The pavement condition in this segment of the corridor is very poor. We're looking for your input on the following decisions for the south segment. Should the roadway be 2 lanes or 4 lanes between the south city limits and Michigan Avenue? If there is a 2-lane alternative in the south segment, we could transition from 4 lanes to 2 lanes immediately north of the railroad tracks near the south city limits. Or we could transition from 4 lanes to 2 lanes at the Michigan Avenue intersection by dropping the right lane into a right turn only lane at the intersection. Another question is whether or not there should be a raised median south of Michigan Avenue if a 4-lane typical section is desired. Regardless of which option is selected, driveway consolidation will be considered to reduce the number of conflict points present in the south segment. We also need to determine whether we want to include on-street bicycle lanes in the south segment, or whether bicycle accommodations are better suited for parallel or adjacent streets. The project team prepared an exhibit detailing potential bicycle accommodations on nearby streets that could be considered if bicycle lanes are not included on Business 51. This exhibit is included on the project website for your review. Another design decision to be considered is the width of the terraces between the roadway and sidewalk. Wider terraces would create a more comfortable environment for pedestrians. See the detailed alternative exhibits for the south segment on the project website for more information on alternatives in this area. The central segment, defined as the area between Patch Street and 4th Avenue, is primarily a 4-lane, undivided roadway surrounded by predominantly residential land use with commercial land use on either end. The railroad underpass north of Patch Street will not be changed as part of this project. Therefore, all potential alternatives must utilize the existing width under this bridge. In the residential area, the roadway is defined by narrow grass terraces, which do not properly buffer pedestrians from traffic. In the winter, snow storage is an issue, and snow and garbage cans are often blocking the outside lane of traffic because there is not enough room on the terrace. The section of Business 51 between Clark and Main Streets is an area with high volumes of turning traffic and significant safety problems. The central segment is a good area in which to consider a reduction in the number of travel lanes from 4 to 2. By doing this, we can improve safety and traffic flow for vehicles by providing a dedicated left turn lane in the center of the roadway. We can also improve safety for pedestrians by reducing the number of lanes of traffic they need to cross and providing more distance between the sidewalk and the street. A key decision to be made for the central segment is whether we want to prioritize creating better accommodations for pedestrians or bicyclists. If a 2-lane roadway with a 2-way left turn lane is selected for the central segment, there will be enough room within the existing right-of-way to make the existing terrace wider. There will also be room to build pedestrian islands at key intersections to make crossing the roadway safer. If bike lanes are also desired in the central segment, right-of-way acquisition will be required. The area between Clark and Main Street will be the most challenging area in the central segment in which to make improvements. The existing right-of-way is narrow and there are improvement needs in this area for vehicles, pedestrians, and bicyclists. Please see the detailed alternative exhibits for the central segment on the project website for more information. The north segment, defined as the area between 4th Avenue and North Point Drive, is a 4-lane roadway with both a 2-way left turn lane and a raised median. Commercial land use surrounds the corridor on both sides. The existing roadway is the widest in the north segment. Between 4th Avenue and Maria Drive, the roadway has a 2-way left turn lane. Between Maria Drive and North Point Drive, the roadway has a raised median. For the majority of the segment, there is a wide grass terrace and sidewalk. The 4th Avenue intersection is an area of concern. The crash rate here is a problem. We've observed more than 650 pedestrians cross the street in a single day, and the existing right-of-way within which to make changes is very limited. We're looking for your input on the following decisions for the north segment. Should the roadway be 4 lanes or 2 lanes? Although the existing roadway is 4 lanes, traffic volumes here do not necessitate a 4-lane typical section. If the roadway were 2 lanes, a significant amount of right-of-way could be repurposed and used to create wide, tree-lined terraces, a landscape median, bicycle lanes, a multi-use path, or wider sidewalks. Another question is if the roadway should have a raised median or a 2-way left turn lane. A roadway with a raised median is typically safer, and the median also provides room for stormwater infiltration, snow storage, and aesthetic improvements. Roadways with 2-way left turn lanes are typically used in areas where access to multiple driveways is necessary and driveways cannot be consolidated. Another question to consider for the north segment is if bicycle accommodations should be on-road or off-road. If they are on the road, should we include a painted buffer to separate bicyclists from traffic? If the accommodations are off-road, should we have a multi-use path or separate facilities for pedestrians and bicyclists? The amount of existing right-of-way in the north segment allows us to really think outside the box in this area and consider how we want this corridor to look, feel, and operate. Please see the detailed alternative exhibits for the north segment on the project website for more information. I encourage you to review the alternative exhibits on the website for further details on the proposed options for each area of the corridor. Now, let's take a couple minutes to discuss what's next and how you can let us know what you think about the items we've discussed today. There are many opportunities for you to give the project team feedback. Right now, we are discussing the purpose and need and preliminary alternatives for the corridor. In a few months, we will move into the evaluation of alternatives phase. And finally, we will recommend an alternative for the corridor and the project will move into the design phase. This is anticipated to occur in the spring of 2021. If you have questions about the project, we encourage you to join one of our live virtual Q&A sessions. One session will be held on Tuesday, September 29th from 5 to 6 p.m. Additional sessions will be held on Thursday, October 1st from 12 to 1 p.m. and 5 to 6 p.m. Check the project website for links to join these meetings. A public survey is also available on the project website from now until Friday, October 16th. We encourage you to leave your thoughts and opinions via this forum. If you would like to submit written comments, you may do so by sending an email to Scott Badoon, City of Stevens Point Director of Public Works, and Amy Canfield, AECOM Project Manager, at the email addresses noted here. Thank you for your interest in the Business 51 project.